So in this video, we're going to pick up where we stopped on the last video with problem number 7 in our review. So problem number 7 is an application. NuGen is considering 2 satellite TV systems. Global Communications charges $240 for installation and $39 per month. World Communications charges $350 for installation and $28 per month. After how many months will World Communications be the better buy? So we can see here that the installation charge for World Communications is higher than the installation charge for Global, but Global charges more a month than World Communications does. So at first, Global is going to be cheaper, but after a while, because of the lower cost per month, after a while, World Communications will be cheaper. So we're going to begin by modeling the costs for each of these depending on the number of months. Okay? So let's first of all think about Global. And this is number 7. Okay? So for Global, the cost, if I call that C, it's going to equal, again, it was $240 for installation plus $39 per month. So it's going to be $39 per month. So if M is the number of months, it's going to be 39 times M plus the installation cost, which was $240. So this models the cost for going with Global Communications, $39 per month plus $240. Now, World Communications, the cost is going to be $28 per month, so it would be 28 times M, but the installation cost again was $350, so plus $350. Okay? So again, at first, Global is going to be cheaper, but because it has a higher monthly charge, at some point it's going to become more expensive. And World at first is more expensive because of the higher installation cost, but eventually it's going to cost less because of the $28 per month charge. So our question was, when will World become the better buy? Okay, when will it be the better buy? So if we take these and set them equal, we can see where the two will be the same cost. So if I take 39M plus 240 and set that equal to 28M plus 350, this will be where Global and World are equal. Okay? So if we solve that, we can subtract 28M from both sides to get the M's all on the left. 39M minus 28M is 11M plus 240 is going to equal 350 because the 28M's are going to go away here. Subtract 240 from both sides. And so on the left we'll have 11M, and on the right we'll have 110. And so if we divide both sides by 11, M equals 10. So at 10 months, these two communications companies will cost the same amount. Okay? Now just to show that, for Global, if we take 39 times 10 plus 240, 39 times 10 would be 390, and 390 plus 240 will be 630. So at 10 months, Global is going to cost a total of $630 for those 10 months. World is going to be $28 a month times 10 months plus the $350 for installation. 28 times 10 is going to be 280, and 280 plus 350 is also equal to 630. So at 10 months, Global and World cost the same amount. So if you're going to, if Nugent's going to keep the satellite system for 10 months, it wouldn't matter which company that he goes with, okay? But if he keeps it for under 10 months, then he would be better off going with Global. If he keeps it for over 10 months, then he would be better off going with World. So after 10 months, World Communications is the better buy. Now let's look at number 8. Number 8, we want to find an equation of the line with slope -4 that passes through the point 2, 5. So again, we'll do that on a separate sheet. So I've written down here, we know that the slope is -4 and we're passing through the point 2, 5. So we know that the equation of the line in slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So I know the slope is 4, so y is going to equal -4 times x plus whatever the y-intercept is. We need to find the y-intercept, okay? We can find the y-intercept because we know this line goes through the point. So if x equals 2, y has to equal 5. So if I take -4 times 2 plus the y-intercept, that has to equal 5. So 5 equals -8 plus the y-intercept. And if we add 8 to both sides, then the y-intercept has to be 13. So we know that the slope of the line is -4, and we found that the y-intercept is 13. So our equation is going to be y equals -4x plus 13. Now let's look at number 9. Number 9, we want to find a linear equation whose graph passes through the points 3, 4, and 6, 9. So again, we'll do that on a separate sheet. So we're trying to find the equation of the line that passes through these points, okay? So to find the equation, I need to know the slope and the y-intercept. So I'm going to start by finding the slope. So if I call this x1, y1, and this x2, y2, I know the slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that's going to be 9, because that's y2, minus 4, y1, over 6, x2, minus 3, x1. 9 minus 4 is 5. 6 minus 3 is 3. So we have a slope of 5/3. So I know my equation is going to be, again, I know the slope-intercept form is going to be y equals mx plus b. We just figured out the slope is 5/3. So y is going to equal 5/3 x plus whatever the y-intercept is. Now I can figure out the y-intercept by using either one of these points, substituting in the x value for x and the y value for y. So I'm going to use the first point. So if I substitute 3 for x, y has to be 4. So I'm going to have 5/3 times 3 plus the y-intercept has to equal 4. Well, 5/3 times 3 is just 5. So I have 4 equals 5 plus the y-intercept. And so if we subtract 5 from both sides, the y-intercept has to be -1. So we found that the slope is 5/3, the y-intercept's -1, so our equation is going to be y equals 5/3 x minus 1. So this is the equation of the line that passes through these 2 points. So look at number 10. Number 10. According to the American Time Use Survey, in 2005, 17.5% of Americans aged 15 and older participated in sports, exercise, and recreation on an average day. In 2014, 19.1% participated on an average day. Model this information with a linear equation Use your model to estimate the percentage of Americans aged 15 and older who will participate in these activities in 2024. So what we're told is in this problem that in the year 2005, 17.5% of individuals 15 and older participated in sports, exercise, and recreation on an average day. And then in 2014, that had gone up to 19.1%. Okay? So to model this, I want to come up with an equation in part A. I'm going to call 2005 year 0, and I'm going to call then 2014 would be year 9 if 2005 is year 0. So I'm going to think of this as the point 0, 17.5, and then this would be the point 9, 19.1. Okay? So I can find the slope. Okay? So the slope, again, we know is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if this is x1, y1 and x2, y2, then that's going to be 19.1 minus 17.5 over 9 minus 0. Okay? 19.1 minus 17.5 is 1.6. 9 minus 0 is 9. And if we take 1.9 divided by, if we take 1.6 divided by 9, that is going to be approximately 0.18 if we round to 2 places. Okay? So I know the slope of my line. Now I also know, if you look here at this point, since we called the year 2005 year 0, I have the point 0, 17.5. So that means 17.5 is the y-intercept because x is 0. So the y-intercept is 17.5. Okay? So my equation is going to be y equals 0.18 times the time, so I'm going to call that t instead of x, plus the 17.5 because that is the y-intercept. Okay? So if I substitute in the year, multiply by 0.18, add 17.5, that's going to give me the percentage of individuals who are participating in sports and recreation and exercise. Okay? Now part B, so this was the answer to part A. Part B, we want to predict what would be the percentage of individuals participating in these activities in the year 2024. So 2024, we're looking for what the percentage would be. So what's the percentage? Now, if 2005 is year 0, then 2024 is year 19. Okay? So I'm just going to substitute 19 for t. So I get 0.18 times 19 plus 17.5. Well, 0.18 times 19 is 3.42. And 3.42 plus 17.5 is 20.92. So we would predict, based on our model, that about 20.92% of individuals that are aged 15 and older will be participating in sports, exercise, and recreation on an average day. Okay, let's look at number 11. Number 11, we want to solve the quadratic equation 2x squared plus 7x equals 4. So here I've written down our quadratic equation that we're going to solve. Okay, and so to solve this, we can use the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula, remember, says that if we have an equation of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, then x is going to equal negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. Now our equation's not quite in this form because we got 4 on the right side of the equals. So we're going to subtract 4 from both sides so that we get 2x squared plus 7x minus 4 equals 0. Okay? And that's important because A is going to be 2, B is going to be 7, C is going to be negative 4 when we use our quadratic formula. So substituting these values in, negative B is going to be negative 7, again because B is 7, plus or minus the square root, B squared, so that's 7 squared, minus 4 times A, which is 2, times C, which is negative 4, and that's all over 2 times A, which is 2. Okay, so now we need to simplify. So we're going to have negative 7 plus or minus the square root. Now underneath that square root, 7 squared is 49. We have minus 4 times 8. That's negative 8. Negative 8 times negative 4 is positive or plus 32. So we have 49 plus 32 underneath the square root. And 2 times 2 is 4 in the denominator. Now 49 plus 32 is 81. So we have negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 81 over 4. Square root of 81 is 9. So negative 7 plus or minus 9 over 4. Now that's two different things that we have here. We're saying that x either equals negative 7 plus 9 over 4 or x equals negative 7 minus 9 over 4. So if it's plus, negative 7 plus 9 is 2, so we have 2 over 4, and that reduces to 1/2. Or if that is minus, then we have negative 7 minus 9 is negative 16, and negative 16 divided by 4 is negative 4. So we have two answers there. We have 1/2 for one answer, negative 4 for the other answer. So there are the solutions to our quadratic equation. Let's do one more on this video. So let's look at number 12. So number 12, we want to answer the following questions for the graph of the equation y equals negative 2x squared minus 10x minus 8. So we want to know, is it opening up or down? What is the vertex of the graph? What are the x-intercepts? What's the y-intercept? And then we want to graph the equation. So here I have written our equation. In part A, we're supposed to answer is the graph opening up or opening down? Well, to tell that, we look at the A value here, which is negative 2. Okay? And so the fact that that is negative tells us that this graph is going to be opening down. Remember, if it's positive, the graph opens up. If it's negative, the graph opens down. B, we're supposed to find the vertex. Well, remember that the vertex occurs at x equals negative b over 2a. So that will give us the x-coordinate of the vertex. And then we can substitute that x-coordinate into the equation for x to figure out the y-coordinate. Well, for this problem, a is negative 2, b is negative 10, and c is negative 8. So we're going to have the negative of negative 10 over 2 times negative 2. Now there's a lot of negatives, so we got to be careful here. The negative of negative 10 is positive 10, and 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, and 10 over negative 4 will reduce to negative 5/2. So the x-coordinate of our vertex is negative 5/2. So we can find the y-coordinate by substituting that back in our equation. So we have negative 2 times negative 5/2 squared minus 10 times negative 5/2 minus 8. Well, negative 5/2 squared means negative 5/2 times negative 5/2. And so that's going to be positive 25 over 4. So that's all I'm going to do on that step. Now negative 2 times 25 over 4. Negative times positive is going to be negative. 2 will cancel with the 4, leaving 2 on the bottom, and we'll have 25 on the top. So we have negative 25 halves. Minus 10 times negative 5 halves is going to be plus. Minus and minus will be a plus. The 10 will cancel with the 2, leaving 5, and 5 times 5 is 25. So we have plus 25 minus 8. Now to find this, we have to find a common denominator, which will be 2. So think of these as over 1. So we have negative 25 halves plus. To change this so that we have a denominator of 2, I'm going to have to multiply the 1 by 2, which means I got to multiply the 25 by 2, which is 50. Same here, got to multiply the 1 by 2, so I got to multiply the 8 by 2. Okay? Negative 25 halves plus 50 halves will be 25 halves, and 25 halves minus 16 halves will be 9 halves. So just adding or subtracting the numerators and keeping the denominator of 2, we get 9 halves. So our vertex is going to be the point negative 5 halves, 9 halves. So there's the answer to part B. Part C, we want to find the x-intercepts. So remember, to find the x-intercepts, we let y equal 0. So if we let y equal 0, then we're going to have 0 equals negative 2x squared minus 10x minus 8. Okay? So using the quadratic formula, we're going to have a equals negative 2, b equals negative 10, c equals negative 8, and of course the quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so that's going to be, in this case, the negative of negative 10 plus or minus the square root of negative 10 squared minus 4 times negative 2 times negative 8 all over 2 times negative 2. Got a little crowded there, but that's negative 2 times negative 8. So that's going to be, the negative of negative 10 is going to be positive 10 plus or minus the square root. Well, underneath the square root here, we have negative 10 squared. Negative 10 times negative 10 is 100. We have minus 4 times negative 2 times negative 8. So minus 4 times negative 2 is positive 8. Positive 8 times negative 8 is negative 64. So we have 100 minus 64, which is 36 underneath the square root. And 2 times negative 2 in the denominator is negative 4. So we have 10 plus or minus. The square root of 36 is 6, and that's over negative 4. So again, we have really two things going on here. We have 10 plus 6 divided by negative 4, or we have 10 minus 6 divided by negative 4. Well, 10 plus 6 is 16, and 16 divided by negative 4 is negative 4, or 10 minus 6 is 4. 4 divided by negative 4 is negative 1. So we have negative 4 or negative 1. Okay? So our x-intercepts then are going to be the points negative 4 comma 0 and negative 1 comma 0. So here are our x-intercepts. Let's continue with part D on the next page. So here I have rewritten our equation, and in part D we want to find the y-intercept. So remember, to find the y-intercept, we let x equal 0 and we solve for y. So if we let x equal 0 in our equation, we're going to get y equals negative 2 times 0 squared minus 10 times 0 minus 8. Now 0 squared is 0, negative 2 times 0 is 0, minus 10 times 0 is 0, minus 8, and 0 minus 0 minus 8 is negative 8. So our y-intercept is the point 0, negative 8. So let's continue with part E on a piece of grid paper. So here I've drawn an x and y axis on a piece of grid paper. Let's just write down what we know. In part A, we found that our parabola is going to open down. In part B, we found that the vertex is the point negative 5 halves, 9 halves. In part C, we found that the x-intercepts are the points negative 4, 0, and negative 1, 0. And then in part D, we found that the y-intercept is the point 0, negative 8. And so remember, when we graph a parabola, we want at least 5 points. One of those points needs to be the vertex, and then we want 2 points on either side of the vertex. So let's begin by plotting our vertex, which is negative 5 halves, 9 halves. So negative 5 halves is the same as negative 2.5. 9 halves is the same as 4.5. So I'm going to come over to the left, negative 2.5, and then up 1, 2, 3, 4.5, which would be about right there. So that is our vertex, again, negative 5 halves, 9 halves. Okay? Now we know also that the x-intercepts are negative 4, 0, and negative 1, 0. So negative 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's negative 4, 0. Negative 1, 0 is here. So labeling those, negative 4, 0, and that point is negative 1, 0. And we know that our y-intercept is 0, negative 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's right here. Here is our y-intercept, 0, negative 8. Now, remember that we have an axis of symmetry that is a vertical line that goes through the vertex. So right now I have 4 points, but I can use symmetry to find the 5th point. So for example, notice that this x-intercept is 1.5 units to the right of the axis of symmetry. This x-intercept is 1.5 units to the left of the axis of symmetry. Well, I can use that same process to find a second point over here. Our y-intercept is 2.5 units to the right of the axis of symmetry. So if I go 2.5 units to the left of the axis of symmetry, that point has to be on the parabola as well by symmetry. So that point is going to be the point negative 5, negative 8. So I have found 5 points. I could find others as well, but this is plenty. So if I connect our points, this is the graph of our parabola. So this is the graph of the equation y equals negative 2x squared minus 10x minus 8. So this is the graph of our parabola. Now let's continue with number 13, starting on a new video.